Are you dumb? Anonymous sent 5 monkey asshole, shut up, dude. I did not drink it, you you. You, Chinese you.
Maximum amount he is facing is 12 years.
You know that feeling when someone is so confident in their own invincibility that they stop pretending they're innocent and just start documenting their crimes like it's a vlog series? Yeah, that's Johnny Somali. And after months of watching this slow-motion disaster unfold in South Korea, it's becoming painfully clear that this situation isn't a misunderstanding, bad luck, or some temporary legal scare. This is the inevitable ending of a guy who mistook attention for immunity and clout for protection. Johnny Somali didn't just cross lines, he sprinted past them, set them on fire, and then live-streamed the ashes while laughing. And now, the same internet he fed off is watching him realize, far too late, that American privilege has limits, especially when you leave America. For over a year, Johnny treated South Korea like a content playground, not a country, not a culture, not a place with laws, history, or consequences. Just a backdrop for shot clips, harassment, and how far can I push this before something happens experiments. And something finally happened.
Was right to say you should never have kids. Your father was right, your father was right.
What makes Johnny's case different from most streamer legal drama is how avoidable it all was. This wasn't some grey area copyright issue or accidental policy violation. Johnny filmed himself committing crimes. He mocked the laws, he researched what was illegal and then deliberately did those things anyway, on stream, with his face, voice, and commentary attached. That's not bad judgment. That's self-snitching at a professional level. Right now, Johnny is facing multiple charges in South Korea, with a realistic maximum sentence of up to 12 years, not internet exaggeration, not Twitter math. 12 actual years in a prison system that does not care about your follow count, your passport, or your excuses. And that's just based on the charges currently on the table. 6 of those charges, he already pleaded guilty. Why? Because even his own lawyer couldn't twist obstruction of business, harassment, and public nuisance into some kind of performance art defense. When you disrupt businesses, harass civilians, and interfere with public spaces repeatedly, the law doesn't care if you are doing it for content. But the real danger for Johnny lies in the charges he's fighting, the deep fake distribution cases. This is where his delusion fully kicks in. Johnny is pleading not guilty to these charges while openly admitting that he distributed the content. His entire defense seems to rest on the idea that he didn't personally create the deep fakes, as if that magically absolves him of responsibility. It doesn't. In South Korea, distribution of explicit or defamatory content is treated just as seriously as creation, especially when it's used for harassment or humiliation. Sharing it is enough. Promoting it is enough. Monetizing it is more than enough. Johnny's legal strategy right now is the equivalent of saying, "I didn't rob the bank, I just helped move the money." When you disrupt businesses, harass civilians, and interfere with public spaces repeatedly, the law doesn't care if you are doing it for content. But the real danger for Johnny lies in the charges he's fighting, the deep fake distribution cases. This is where his delusion fully kicks in. Johnny is pleading not guilty to these charges while openly admitting that he distributed the content. His entire defense seems to rest on the idea that he didn't personally create the deep fakes, as if that magically absolves him of responsibility. It doesn't. In South Korea, distribution of explicit or defamatory content is treated just as seriously as creation, especially when it's used for harassment or humiliation. Sharing it is enough. Promoting it is enough. Monetizing it is more than enough. Johnny's legal strategy right now is the equivalent of saying, "I didn't rob the bank, I just helped move the money." That argument might work on Twitter, it doesn't work in court, and here's the part Johnny either doesn't understand or refuses to accept. Even if he appeals any sentence, he will be doing so from inside a Korean jail cell. There is no go home and fight this from America option, no ankle monitor, no influencer probation, concrete walls, locked doors, reality. Some online headlines floated numbers like 30 or 40 years, which seems unlikely. But even at the lower end, Johnny is facing years of his life disappearing, because he couldn't stop antagonizing strangers for clips. And the scariest part, Johnny himself has admitted he doesn't think he could survive prison. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't trolling. That was fear slipping through the cracks of a persona built on fake confidence. Because when the camera turns off, the bravado evaporates, and the witnesses lining up against him only make things worse. The list of people testifying reads like a highlight reel of his worst behavior. Bong Bong, Youngman, victims of harassment and deepfake distribution. Each one adds weight to a case that is already crushing. But then there's the wild card that truly seals Johnny's fate. Delgoon, the former Korean Navy SEAL, the man who delivered one of the most viral reality check punches in internet history. The same man Johnny immediately snitched on after spending months claiming he never rats. Now Delgoon gets to sit in court, look Johnny in the eyes, and describe exactly what kind of person harasses women, disrespects civilians, and treats public spaces like a personal stage. And unlike Johnny's usual targets, Delgoon isn't intimidated by cameras, yelling, or online tantrums. This is someone trained to operate under pressure. Johnny's Twitter threads mean nothing to him. The irony is brutal. Johnny built his entire identity on being untouchable, on claiming he always wins, on bragging that consequences never catch him. He loved talking about Japan, conveniently skipping the part where he was chased out and forced to flee. Then he came to South Korea, thinking his American passport was some kind of cheat code. It wasn't. Within days, he was harassing locals, jumping on stages, screaming slurs, and, in one of the most reckless moves imaginable, playing North Korean propaganda on public transportation. In a country that is technically still at war with North Korea. That's not edgy, that's dangerously stupid, and the most damning detail. Johnny knew exactly what he was doing. His own streams show him discussing the laws beforehand. He researched what was illegal, then he did it anyway, on camera. That's not content creation, that's evidence production. And as this case continues, one thing is becoming obvious. Johnny isn't fighting the system anymore. He already lost. What's happening now is the slow, methodical process of consequences catching up to someone who believed they never would. By the time Johnny Somali stepped into that courtroom for the first time, the outcome was already written. The only question left was how badly he was going to make it for himself. And somehow, he exceeded expectations. That first appearance should have been his moment to shift the narrative. Apologize, show humility, signal to the judge that he understood the seriousness of what he'd done. Instead, Johnny treated court like it was another live stream set. He showed up late, allegedly intoxicated, smirking, laughing, acting like the entire process was just another bit, another thing he could antagonize his way through. At one point, he allegedly told the judge to suck his neck. Let that sink in. This wasn't a police officer. This wasn't a security guard. This was a South Korean judge, someone with full authority over how long Johnny stays in that country and under what conditions. That single moment likely erased any remaining goodwill he had. In most legal systems, especially in Korea, respect and remorse matter. Judges don't just evaluate the crime, they evaluate the person standing in front of them. And Johnny presented himself as someone who didn't deserve leniency. Even worse, this wasn't a one-time slip. Every subsequent appearance showed the same pattern. At first, Johnny wore casual clothes, almost like he was showing up to a podcast taping. Only recently did he start dressing appropriately, and by then, the damage was already done. Judges noticed patterns, and Johnny's patterns screamed arrogance. Behind the scenes, his financial situation was collapsing just as fast as his legal one. Johnny had already been stuck in South Korea for over a year by this point, unable to leave, unable to work normally, and burning through whatever money he had left. Streaming income, gone. Brand deals, non-existent. Sponsors, nuclear wasteland. At one point, his friend Hank, the same guy who stood beside him through much of this mess, publicly stated that Johnny owed him over $20,000 and that they were no longer associated. That relationship ended the same way all of Johnny's relationships end, unpaid, burned, and publicly hostile.
You know, how much have you personally spent thus far helping and supporting your friend?
Including
legal fee, everything for Johnny.
Legal fees? Yes.
And because of extra money you had to pay because of the inconvenience of Johnny there, over 10,000? Over 20,000?
Close to it.
Close to $20,000.
So now Johnny is paying legal fees with borrowed money to defend himself against crimes he live-streamed in 4K. That's not strategy, that's financial self-harm. And the Korean legal system? They're not rushing. Unlike American courts, there's no pressure to wrap this up quickly. Each delay works against Johnny. Every new hearing becomes another opportunity for him to say something stupid, contradict himself, or incriminate himself further. And he keeps doing exactly that. Every time he speaks publicly, prosecutors don't need to investigate. They just clip his own words. He doesn't just provide evidence, he explains it, adds commentary, brags about it. Most defendants shut up. Johnny performs. That's why new charges keep stacking. Not because authorities are targeting him, but because he refuses to stop digging. Then came the documentary trailer. Watching Johnny's entire arc laid out in sequence is brutal. From wannabe Ice Poseidon clone to international incident, it's a speed run of how to destroy your life for content nobody even wanted. The documentary doesn't portray him as misunderstood. It portrays him as reckless, arrogant, and incapable of learning. Someone who had dozens of chances to pivot, apologize, or grow, and chose none of them. What stands out the most is how alone he is now. No major creators defending him, no big streamers backing him. Even Ice Poseidon, the man who practically pioneered this style of IRL chaos, publicly disowned him. He straight up said Johnny made things worse for everyone and that he didn't like him. When the godfather of degeneracy tells you that you've gone too far, you're cooked. And now, as the October 29th trial date approaches, landing almost exactly on the 1-year anniversary of Del Goon's infamous punch, the symbolism couldn't be more perfect. That punch wasn't just a viral moment. It was the first real consequence Johnny ever faced in real life. Everything since then has just been the ripple effect. The witnesses are ready, the evidence is overwhelming, the legal strategy is flimsy at best, and Johnny's refusal to take plea deals that could have shaved years off his sentence, might end up costing him a decade of his life, all because he couldn't admit fault. And when people ask, will Johnny Somali ever come home? The answer isn't just, probably not. It's, what would he even come home to? His name is poison, his reputation is irreparable. He's burned every bridge, alienated every ally, and turned himself into a global cautionary tale. Even if he eventually serves his time and gets deported, he's not returning as a creator. He's returning as the guy who thought clout beat the law. And lost. Johnny Somali didn't just gamble his freedom, he gambled it on the belief that consequences weren't real. And now he's about to learn the hardest lesson of his life. Outside of the internet, the house doesn't care who you are. And when you lose, you don't just lose views, you lose years. So what do you think? Did Johnny Somali finally push things too far? Or is this just the inevitable outcome of someone who thought the rules never applied to him? Is he actually facing real prison time? Or do you think he somehow slithers out of this like he always tries to? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious where you land on this one. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into influencer downfalls, internet chaos, and the stories nobody else is willing to tell. Because trust me, this saga is far from over, and when the next update drops, it's going to be even worse than this. I'll see you in the next one.